We're going to try something, it's sort of a country blues mix, something like this. If you recognize that, that's Drift Away by Waylon Jennings, done originally by Dobie Gray. I think this is more the sort of the guitar version with a really cool riff. Now what's nice about this are the double stops in the beginning, the parts that go. And you'll notice over there, if I zoom into my picking hand, you'll see the pick sitting there, and what's my middle finger on that bottom B string. You'll notice I've got the almost like an echo vibe, so I'm not picking them together. I've got a slight drag between the pick and the finger, super slow motion like this, and a bit quicker at the correct pace, and that gives us that nice sort of double it. And you want to get that technique working, it just doesn't work well with the pick only. Now let's have a look at the tabs. I'm sure you've got the PDF printed out in front of you or on your screen or something like that. Let's see what the fretting hand is doing. Now it's starting with finger 1, my fingers are numbered, try and keep the same fingers as what I'm using as a suggestion, it's going to work quite well. And you're starting with a double 2, which means even though I'm fretting the first string, I'm only plucking strings 2 and 3. And again you can hear the delay there. From that double 2 it goes to 4, 5, 4 being on the third, 5 being on the second string. And then I jump up again to 7, come back the same route to the 4, 5 and onto the double 2. So it's sort of a back and forwards riff, if you want to call it that, because it starts and ends up the same way. And after that you get a cool little hammer on which goes, okay, let's do that slowly. You're plucking the 4th string in the 2nd fret, hammering on the 3rd finger into the 4th, and then plucking the 2nd fret on the 3rd string, and you double it. And then after that, a simple part of A chord, which is the double 2. Now, on the picking technique, again, you'll notice that my middle finger is going to do a little work over here. The hammer on is obviously the pick. You can hear you can see both fingers now, so it's pick, hammer, and then focusing on this, you can see that middle finger coming in for the 2. And then I've got my chord, which can be like that, or a fuller chord, depending which you want to go for. And just before he starts singing, he does this. It's a very quick slide from the 5 to the double 7, and it comes back to there, and then into the D chord, which we're going to play differently. Now, before I show you the D voicings, I'm going to play the riff one more time. I'm going to show you sort of more head on the fingering so you can see what's happening over here. You've seen what's happening with the picking hand, and check this out. And that's now, you can hear on the back track, that's when the rhythm guitar came in as well, because I've pre-recorded the strumming track as well. Okay, now we're going to look at your new chord voicings. Voicings mean shapes. Now the verse starts with a D, normal D, we don't want to play normal D. Normal A, we're not going to play normal A. And later there's going to be a quick passing E and B minor, but let's look at the opening D chord. I'm going to bar finger 1, fret number 2, bottom 4 strings, and 2 and 3 are going to end up like this. 2's on the 2nd string, 3's on the 4th string, 4th fret. This is my new D. What's quite cool with this is when it goes from the D, from day after day, I'm so confused, onto the A. just quoting the words now on your PDF. It's a very easy transition. You're simply playing strings 4, 3, and 2. Day after day, I'm so confused, onto the A. Now, a little riff over there. I'm going to get to those riffs shortly because they really make this a cool application for guitaring. And then back to D for the second line. You were on A from the first. Nice little hammer on there. And it's a double hammer on because finger 2 and finger 3 are both hammering on. So I'm going to pluck all 3 strings. And then I'm going to hammer on those 2 together. It gives a nice, the typical sort of country blues sort of vibe. And what's interesting over here as well is that certain country and certain blues are so interlinked. There's a very fine line. When we say country, we're not talking about the Take Me Home Country Roads vibe or anything like that. We're talking about more the sort of more instrumental guitar blues. There's some really nice country blues crossovers. Okay, so basically D to A, then D, and a very quick change to E before the A at the end of the second line. So you're going to have, and that little slide there, that's actually E. And if you think about it logically and you think about your bar chords, if I was playing a normal D bar chord, for example, and I went to E, it would be 2 frets up, correct? Similarly, if I was playing it over here, I'd go 2 frets up. So if I'm playing D here, and I wanted to go to E, I would go 2 frets up. Very important lesson there. Okay, your shapes are the same. They're simply moving depending on what chord is needed. That's D, that's E. If I needed an F, if I needed a G, I can move these chords, and that's what I want to try and get over just quickly. Okay, fourth line is going to be B minor. And what's quite nice is you're coming in from that A at the end of the third line where he sings that I hate to lose, and that A opens itself up ideally for a complete hammer on onto the B minor chord. It just works so well. That's what's nice about these voicings. They're very close, and remember, voicing means a different way of playing the same chord. So that's one voicing for A, for example. That's another voicing for A, for example. That's a third voicing for A, and so on. We're not going to sit and go through all the voicings. But voicing is just a terminology of different way to play the same chord. Okay. Now, this song is actually in the key of, who knows? A major, because the D and E are positions 4 and 5. So the opening chord, that D, isn't your key. The A is your key. So it's starting from the 4th, and it resolves itself onto the A. Okay, so you'll key this A major, which means your relative minor is, now I'm waiting patiently for all those with the studies and the training to tell me it's in the key of F sharp minor, being the relative minor to A major. Okay, in short, we're going to play the F sharp minor pentatonic scale, which for those that aren't familiar with it, should look and sound like this, starting at fret number 2, 2, 5, 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, 5, 2, 5. Make sure you know that scale. If you're not sure of it, pause the video, learn it, please. It's really going to help. Now, I'm going to do a quick demonstration up close now of this hand, jamming through that part so you can see what's actually happening with the scale, and we'll sort of see how we can apply the scale to the chords, because we can have a lot of fun with this. If you want to play through from the introduction with me, more than welcome. There's a 4 click, there's your 4 click, and here we go. There's your D to A, there's a hammer on to D, back to D, there's my B minor, back to D. Now, I went through a sort of rather heavy-handed here to try and sort of bring out the scale inside the chords, but to break that down, here's my D, starting at the beginning of the verse, so when he sings day after day, okay, onto the A. Now that's a very easy line. That's basically the F sharp minor pentatonic. I'm going to play it through slowly so you can see it. And it works so nicely. Check again. D and to A. back to D, and you go quick run. There's your E, and that second quick change E we mentioned earlier to the A. And once you've done that quick change, and what I did there is I went to that part of the pentatonic, and I played from there, and actually just descending along the pentatonic scale. Now everything I'm demonstrating over here isn't rehearsed, it's played on the fly. And that's what's nice about these scales. If you know them well, you don't have to think too much. You can say, look, you can just compose sort of spontaneously, which is quite cool. So the scale gives you all the notes. And if I continue playing with the backtrack and I just play the scale, check how cool the scale is just by itself. So if you add speeding up, you can repeat notes. So you don't need speed. You can do slides later. So later, as you get better with the scale, you'll learn from position 1 to position 2, which is this one here. For those that know it, and if you don't know it, you want to learn it, just rewind the video quickly, or drop me a WhatsApp and I'll send you a page with all the scales on in diagram form. Happy to do that for you. Okay, now just some nice little riffs that I like doing, for example, with the slides. Slow motion, I'm going to tab this down. Be kind with your vibrato as well. Sort of vibrato adds a life to it. With no vibrato and with vibrato, just gives it extra sort of life to it, which is quite cool. Other nice little ones, double stops. And all that's happening there is I'm plucking strings 3 and 2, bending 3, pinky doesn't bend, and then I'm taking my picking hand, plucking the first, second string, and then the third string, and bringing back down, releasing it onto the 2. And that works really, really well. So all these little tips and tricks and that will work for the song. And another keen example of this riff is going. And if you look at your PDF, it says play before the intro riff after each verse. That's what I just did. And it sounds pretty sweet. So get the riff going, and just by the way, this is from your F sharp minor pentatonic as well. Here's a nice song. I hope you enjoyed it. Try the riffs, get them smooth, get them elegant, get a little double sort of, remember that picking technique we were showing earlier as well? And you got that. You can see that middle finger tapping in quite nice. And for the last few minutes, I'm going to jump through one more time, zoom out a little bit there, and just going to have some fun. Okay, so this is going to be completely impromptu, and hopefully I don't make too many mistakes. 3, 4 round. Those slides just gives nice dynamic. Now, and I hope you've had lots of fun with the song. Have a cool week. Chat later.